Malbs was caught on an ESL listen-in saying, I might be the best Ancient player in the world. And he might have a point, because Malbs, statistically, the only player ahead of Malbs is Nico, and Malbs goes for a ridiculous amount of entries, and he's just an unbelievably good player. And when we look at the change that G2 made, I think a lot of people are going to give a lot of credit to Snacks, and fair enough, but I think not enough credit has yet gone to Malbs, although, as I say that, I realize a lot of credit has gone to Malbs, but is it enough credit? Because this guy, if Donk hadn't happened this year, I feel like this would be like some insane revelation of an aggressive entering player becoming like this insane force immediately after jumping to tier 1. It's actually kind of crazy because, especially when you look at North American CS, you're looking at players. It's often talked about how North American tier 2 CS is just those players don't transition to tier 1. You look at players like Grim, you look at OC. OC was all right, but you look at Junior, for example. These players often struggle to transition to tier 1, and maybe M80 was definitely closer to tier 1 than a lot of previous teams, I suppose, because they did compete at some good events, and they did have some good upsets. I mean, M80, I believe, upset G2 themselves as well, but you often see these players have a little bit of a trouble transitioning, and Malbs seems to have had exactly zero trouble transitioning. And not only that, but in the way he's playing, he's opening up so much space for Hunter to do really well. And you could say maybe it's the calling, maybe you could argue if it's the calling or not. I really think that a lot of Hunter's resurgence is coming because of Snap Tap. No, stop it with that narrative, guys. It's not Snap Tap. Stop. I think it's coming because Malbs is getting these entries, and it's opening up so much space on the map for Hunter to find lurk timings, to find, those delayed trades in really effective ways. But Malbs on Ancient, this game, I think he gets like a 2.4 rating, and it just seems like every round, it's some sort of default, or there's a good play being made. I think especially on Ancient, Snacks seems to be a pretty good caller, but then Malbs just kills someone. Usually in situations where, maybe he's not expected to get any kills, or maybe it's just kind of like, okay, you're gonna hold, and we're gonna do this thing, and if you find the timing, you can go for it, and then he finds the time, and he goes for it, and he gets 2 kills. But this round, he started out early towards middle. His team was going A, so he didn't really have a chance to do very much. I mean, if he can get 1 or 2 kills, just to damage the economy of Astralis, this would be pretty solid. But unfortunately, fighting long range with the Galil against an A1S, a dink is nice, but it's no kill. And that means you've got the first round for Astralis on the board. And actually, this is map 3, right? Astralis did have a resurgence on Mirage. They went down something like 6 or 7-1 and managed to come back and win the map. And this was kind of concerning. Astralis is a team you got to be careful letting them into a series because they have players like Stown, they have Device. These players can pop off and steal a game, absolutely. But Malbs, to begin with, obviously finds the initial entry in towards middle. That's something, Elige on Complexity, Donk on Spirit, they're really strong at getting those sorts of kills. There's a nice little lineup with the smoke as well to edge the molly. And then not only does he get that initial kill, he's going to be entering out A. Well, he's going to be second in, and he's got this really, really nice movement. And if we look at this from Stown's POV, it's crazy. This is actually, if you watched my Donk video, my original one on my main channel, I mentioned Donk peeking Rops very similarly at A on Mirage. Rops was on the vase or the planter or whatever you want to call it, and Donk peeked into him and did that exact type of movement with low HP. It's really good. You can see Stown just wasn't ready for that. I think he flicked off of him. Donk definitely flicked off, or Rops definitely flicked off of Donk in the one I'm imagining. But that's a ridiculous round for Malbs. He goes mid initially, gets a kill, comes out A, was initially the first guy out, or actually the second guy out, gets the trade, then is the first guy, gets the kill on the player coming from Donut. These are ridiculous plays from Malbs. It's unbelievable, honestly. And not only that, after the game, he goes, shout out, that one's for my boy Swisher, which is based. To have the confidence to say that in an interview that early on in your career. All right, this guy's a legend. Malbs is a legend. So initial utility stops the jump up, then a flash out, pretty solid. Nade the smoke, look for something. This is something that will get him kills quite often. And then he lurks through the smoke. I mean, he's already got a bit of a clear from Snacks helping him out. And Snacks is... I don't want to take anything away from Snacks. I think Snacks has done a pretty good job so far on G2. However, G2 are still... You see them sometimes be a bit undisciplined, and I really think, you know, at the end of the day... CS is a game about shooting the opponent effectively, and when you have Malbs activating to this ridiculous degree, to the point that Hunter is now having these pop-off games and stuff, and maybe Hunter's just resurged. Maybe that is Snacks. Really, maybe it is. Maybe I'm just kind of, you know, I'm giving credit to the wrong person there, but when you have Malbs and Hunter popping off, and you already had Nico, who's, you know, in the last couple months, been back to his form, right? For the beginning of CS2, he was kind of struggling a little bit. He was having some inconsistency, right? You have Nico start popping off, you have Malbs pop off. You're looking at something kind of crazy. And the question is if they can continue it, right? Can they continue this level of form? It's tough to continue for long. You know, I mean, you look at like the Liquid 2019 run with all of those events. I feel like this is on par with that, where they're just kind of destroying everyone aim-wise. And they're doing some things right, but they are just destroying everyone aim-wise. And then you've got Device with 1 HP, still somehow gets the kill. Now that's crazy, okay? So Maul's best player in the world on Ancient can't even kill Device with 1 HP. that is crazy. That is actually crazy. I mean, Device is Device, right? There's been some questions people are asking, should Device be IGLing? Maybe they should pick him an IGL instead of Device. I saw someone say minus bro plus Hooksy. I'm not sure if that one's the play, but I saw someone say it. Actually, I saw a couple people say it. I saw someone say it and a couple of people agree, which is wild, okay? But, you know, Device is still Device. He still has great times. It seems like he struggles sometimes, though, when you get into these complex mid-rounds and he does have to make these calls, that sometimes his fragging goes down. But if he's on his own, left to do his own thing, left to his own devices, you might even say, I think he's feeling pretty good. There, Malbs, I mean, honestly, I don't think he's supposed to get that kill. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think Stare... Yeah, I mean, Malbs isn't quite looking at Stare. Stare is pretty much ready for Malbs, but maybe Stare peaked, cleared, and then just wasn't quite ready at that exact moment. Maybe he was starting to look away because the smoke was dissipating. But yet another kill from Malbs to open things up, and although he gets traded, it does end up going G2's way with m0NESY pulling off the 1v2. Which, by the way, I'll show this one quickly because Stown had this really nice flank timing here. Right, he pushes out. And I was watching this on Maui Snake's stream, and Maui's like, he wouldn't do this on stage. This is a group stage Stown play. It's a group stage Stown play. And then m0NESY even checks the flank. He knows it's possible. Stown walks in, spots him out, and m0NESY somehow gets the kill still. And I mean, you do have m0NESY down on 7 HP, but with the smoke down, unfortunately, it's hard for Bro to get much done. m0NESY could kind of be anywhere, but you know, if you wait too long, you also give up the opportunity. I mean, m0NESY could even be long at this point. And m0NESY does find the perfect timing for the peak to kill Bro as well, which is unfortunate for Astralis, but that's the reality of the situation. And then we go back to Malbs, who, again, on a Galil. I mean, G2 is not building up a ton of money here, winning with, you know, one player alive after a loss. They don't have infinite utility either, but obviously Astralis doesn't have a very good buy either. In fact, Astralis has a horrifically bad buy, but they were kind of forced to go for the save because they were on a double eco, or forced to go for the force rather because they were on a double eco, which means G2 is, you know, in the driver's seat to some extent, and Malbs just has to find the right timing, and he gets, let's admit it, he got a little bit lucky there, okay? Look, it's good, you have to know that the flank could be coming to find this, but the timing here is very, very close, and Stare, I think this is because it's a left eye peek. I don't think he sees Malbs here. Oh, he barely does. But I think it's the left eye angle there that lets Malbs see him just a little earlier than he'd expect. And you got to give credit to Malbs. I mean, he did turn around to check that, pull his gun out quickly, and hit a nice shot. But I think a lot of the time he just ends up dying there regardless. Then you end up in a 3v2. Malbs is playing quite safe here. He doesn't want to give anything back while crossing over mid, but there was nobody to take anything from him. And then you have a 5-2 lead for G2, and what, 2 of these wins? Well, one of the losses, and at least one of the wins, Malbs just 3K entry'd on, which is just unreal. But we'll skip over this one because Astralis are going for what you might even term an Astralis stack. 5 players with USPs, highly effective gameplay. You know, I asked on Twitter earlier, how many hooksies do you think it would take to beat Prime Astralis, right? Because like 1 hooksie is 1v5, he's never gonna win. 5 hooksies, well, it's Prime Astralis, he's probably not gonna win. 6 hooksies though, 7 hooksies, and some people were saying like you need like 9 or 10. Look, the fact that an Astralis 5-man stack on a bomb site with USPs and no utility almost always delivers at least a kill or 2 tells me that a 4-man hooksie stack with M4s on a bomb site, okay, what's Astralis gonna do? Okay, they're just gonna lose. They just got no chance. They're just screwed. They're screwed. All right, anyways. I think 9 hooksies is guaranteed to beat Prime Astralis, okay? Let's be real here. Anyways, walkout, an aggressive walkout, doesn't go badly. Obviously, a 1-for-1 on T side is exactly what you're looking for, especially when you have someone like you have Malbs with a Galil. I think he had already thrown his utility, so it's not like they were too worried about his util. It opens up the map a little bit because as G2 then, or as Astralis rather, you have to kind of gamble. I mean, the maps are made typically for 5 players, right? So you have a certain amount of angles you have to hold, and there's going to be an opening somewhere. And I think when it comes to Ancient is a map where you can kind of sniff out where those openings likely are to be in the mid round. Whereas like you look at a map like Nuke, it feels more like you walk into the empty spot or you don't, right? You either go upper when they have nobody upper or you don't, and by the time you can even know that they have nobody upper, you're already committed. Maybe Ancient's that way a little bit too, so is every map, but regardless, out of A main came Snacks, who actually got the entry, which is certainly very helpful, right? If your IGL can entry out of A main and get a kill after your entry, your typical entry dies. Nice flip side stickers, you got to admit, on the AK. And Malbs getting nicely blocked to a ridiculous degree will finally make his way back around to A main. Nade out the smoke. He's actually not the first guy out, but somehow he gets the first kill. Takes down Yavi. I mean, we're 7-2 up, and Malbs is doing, he's feeling pretty good. 12-5, and it's not like he's gifted a whole lot of kills. A lot of these he's put into like 50-50 engagements, or even worse engagements sometimes, and to some extent he's trying to find good timings. Like he's caught players off guard a couple of times as well. He's found good moments to make plays happen, but he's also just, won some duels that he's not been set up to win, is what I mean. I don't mean to say that this is just his aim. What I mean to say is that he's not really being set up necessarily to be guaranteed a kill or anything, and he's finding ways to get those kills, whether that be by aim or by timing or that type of thing, right? But this time around, what spawn did he have here? Okay, he had this spawn. I thought he had like the best mid spawn for a second. He was gonna like swing out. I mean, pretty normal utility usage. You molly off the jump up, you give your team some time to work towards shelf if they want, and then you've got this nade that you can find a timing to throw at any point. And I mean, look, dude, like if you're a stare here, like let's be honest, you are looking for this exact play. You're looking at this exact play. And look, some teams are gonna have someone throw a flash for this peak. And a lot of the time you do want someone throwing a flash for this peak. That would be quite useful. However, depending on where you throw the flash, right? So I see some flashes that land like up here, which are kind of designed to kill like this type of player, whereas some land up here, which this angle, for example, won't get blind by, but it doesn't really matter. I don't know why I brought that up. Hunter has the flash. I think Hunter's gonna throw this flash. Yeah, Hunter does throw this flash, but Stare is not blind by it because he's ahead. But this is literally, Stare is exactly ready for this. And if you, like, I play Pug sometimes, and when I play them, sometimes it's just like this. I'm like set up perfectly. I'm like, I know exactly what they're gonna do, ready for it, holding the angle. then they do it and I still die, and I'm like, dude, why am I even playing this game? Why don't I just uninstall? Like, what's the point? What's the point of playing if I can outplay them and still die? What's the point? What's the point? Well, why even be here? And you know what? That definitely flashed through Stair's mind there when he's basically in the perfect angle. I think that angle, does that angle even dodge this flash, depending on where it lands? Like, if it lands here, that might dodge both flashes. But you can't do much if Malbs just peeks out and kills you. To be fair, I mean, Stair had FAMAS, right? But Stair also had an MP9 a couple rounds prior and also died. You didn't have an M4 in any of those scenarios, but still. Then not only that, Malbs comes into A, and just the confidence. Like, that's the one thing that I'll note about Malbs. I was going to talk about, what I meant to talk about when I brought up the flash was that you don't necessarily always want to throw perfect utility every time you make a play. Sometimes it's worth it, and this is why a player like Malbs is so valuable, that you make it look like it could be a fake, or you make it look like it could be a player on his own, or something like that, right? And you have that player kind of commit, because then when you don't have a player doing that, then they have to respect that, you know, if they're not directly in mid watching that exact angle, you respect that someone could actually have done that and could just be like walking out mid. Maybe this isn't the greatest example for that type of idea, but when a lot of the time, I think when teams do plays that look kind of like, oh, why didn't they throw a flash for that, or why did they do this? It's like really risky. A lot of the time, it's kind of covering for other situations, right? And when you have a player like Malbs, when you do those kind of like imperfect gameplay decisions, right, that are meant to mask other things that you do elsewhere, I think what he can deliver on those and still win those duels, and that just makes the game just flow so much more smoothly. But also, I mean, like, look, he just finds, oh, look, there's a little, like, this molly isn't quite as deep as maybe they wanted it. I can find a timing. Down goes Stair. That's fucking ridiculous. Dude, that's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, dude. And then not only that, swings out. I mean, this pre-aim, by the way. This pre-aim. Hold on. This is like, in my Zaiwu video, I mentioned a pre-aim where Zaiwu swings B site on Mirage. He swings B site, and he somehow has the perfect pre-aim on someone he doesn't even know is there. It's just like on the head. And look, I mean, this is ridiculous, bro. Look, I mean, he knows that what Yabi does. Yabi swings, Yabi gets a second kill, and then Yabi's gonna keep moving out to throw off Malbs' crosshair, but Malbs is in the perfect position to actually make that work in terms of crosshair placement and gets the kill. How are you supposed to play against this G2 roster? I mean, you have Malbs just killing everyone everywhere he goes, regardless of how much support he's actually getting. You have Monacy, who's just gonna clutch a ridiculous amount of the time. You have Nico, who's basically Malbs, but I can't remember what country Nico's from. He's Bosnian, but he's Bosnian, and he's older, and he's better. Well, you know, maybe Malbs is the best player of the year this year. Maybe he just pops off for the next 7 events in a row, and he's just the best player of the year this year. And then people look back at that and they're like, Vu, take Vu. Can't believe you said that. But, you know, I think Malbs is pretty damn good, all right? That's what I'm getting at here. And shout out one time. This one's for Swisher. Oh, that was gold. Okay, then he finds the timing, swings through. And look, if he dies here, it's... Oh my god, dude. There's no way this guy maintains this level of skill. There's no way. This is unbelievable. So the timing here is intentional, right? Like, they're gonna come through that smoke, and he's gonna come through at the same time. Nico, in fact, comes through first before Malbs even makes contact, but you don't know where the contact's gonna get made. If Malbs dies here, he would still be drawing. He would be drawing eyes, right, from Astralis. So even if things went wrong, the point is that I noticed actually, I mentioned in my previous video about the IGL roundtable with Apex, Kerrigan, and Alexi B. One of the things Kerrigan talked about, and I feel like I've referenced this in a couple of videos, sometimes it can look really bad because what'll happen is that there'll be like 3 1v1s and FaZe will lose all 3 of them. Like, lose one, lose the next one, lose the next one. And it's like, dude, they just took 3 1v1s. Like, what are they, just pugging? What is this FPL? This isn't FPL, Kerrigan, okay? But he's talking about like, okay, well, some of the time the point is that you set up a pretty solid duel for the first player, And if the first player gets a kill, the rest of the team, the rest of those duels are like dominoes, right? You that first player gets the initial kill, and the second and third kills are easy because you know how the rotation is going to come out. Once that first kill happens, those players are going to move, and you line up the timing for the second and third player to get kills. But then if the first player dies, well, then the second and third player just have to take the straight up 50-50 engagements to try and get themselves back into the round. And if they don't win that, or maybe they're like 40-60 engagements, they don't win that, then things are kind of bad, right? Like it looks really bad. And I think the same is true. Well, it's quite a bit different in that scenario, but the same can be somewhat true for that type of situation where if the first guy gets a kill, the sight hold topples because there's too many angles to look at. And if the first guy dies, it's still not that bad because he's drawing eyes for the second player to maybe make contact and get a kill as well. But so one of the things, I mean, this goes back to like talking about Hooksy. Like, why does Hooksy not eco hunt? Well, the reason Hooksy didn't eco hunt is heavily because oh yeah, also this one was kind of funny because of the way what Nico does. Nico's, I mean, this is what you do when you're like at this point when you're dominating this hard. Nico spots him out, gets a kill, gets a second kill. He's just swinging. He's gonna go for the knife kill, but he gets instant ink bites down. He goes for the knife. Doesn't work out. But that gives Snacks 2 free kills. And Snacks actually did really struggle, admittedly, on Mirage. I think he had like 4 kills at the beginning of CT side, and he ended with 5 or 6, if I remember correctly. Or he had 4 kills when I first started looking, which was pretty early on in the CT side. But when I was mentioning Hooksy, like, why doesn't Hooksy eco hunt? Part of it is that, like, I think he just couldn't win duels in quite the way that you're supposed to in order to get anti-eco frags, so he would kind of hide, right? Whereas Malbs is like, well, I can out aim these guys, so I want to be taking these types of duels where it's going to be hard for them to retrieve the gun, and I have a massive advantage. You don't always need to be trading, right? In anti-ecos. The jiggle here, nothing's really going to happen until he has to rotate to B, as Astralis have taken the B site, but unfortunately Device dies with the bomb in the smoke, which means they're, you got Stown in just a terrible position, and as long as they don't leave anything wide open and Malbs is close enough to trade off Monacy, there is, it can be scary because Monacy's 30 health, he could definitely just get killed, and then Malbs has to be close enough that he can quickly trade, or he can get away and play the 2v1 with Hunter, which is also, I think, would be fair, depending on the situation, but Monacy will just find the kill, and then you've got a 12-3 game, Monacy with the ace. Well done, Monacy. Good job. Don't even need an op to do it, do you? So, Malbs looks like, I haven't watched a ton of G2 on Ancient since Malbs joined, but certain teams play much more off of A than others, and I think Malbs seems to be playing on A a little bit more often. Maybe G2 are just pretty confident in their ability for Hunter and Monacy to control mid in standard scenarios, and they don't maybe necessarily need the support. You got a 4v2. Oi, I don't know why I just hit the wrong button. And you have really solid plays from G2. I don't want to say that this is just like them out-aiming people all the time. There is like a major aim factor that makes it look so easy for G2 that like they can make the right play and it just looks like a genius play, or they can make a play that's kind of like not quite right, but it's still like a decent play, right? And it looks like better than it is because you just have everyone popping off. And again, it's not that it's just aim or anything like that. There's a lot more to it, especially, I mean, we're looking at Malbs, and a lot of these duels he's winning based on aim, but he's putting himself in situations where he is catching players off guard and kind of turning what would be like a 40-60 engagement into a 50-50 engagement, right? Rather than a disadvantaged engagement. But it just looks so much better, right? When your players are landing the shots. And now, I mean, Device has 20 seconds. So I think what I would expect to happen is, yeah, Malbs is gonna take this fight, and he either wins or loses it, but Hunter commits to the B site, and even if Device kills Malbs, that Device has no time to actually get the bomb plant safely. So there you go again, Malbs, 135 adder on Ancient. Is he the best Ancient player in the world? Certainly one of them. Certainly up there, top 3 maybe. Although, when you look at G2, I think they have like 3 of the top 5 Ancient players statistically. So they do help each other a little bit, but I feel like it's in the reverse. I feel like the way Malbs is playing helps the other players on G2 maybe more than they help him, just in how aggressive he's playing And when he gets kills, he's opening up space for his teammates more so than they're opening space for him, right? If he gets those entries and they don't get kills after, that doesn't really change all that much for him. Whereas if he doesn't get those entries, that might change quite a bit for someone like Hunter, who's usually going in behind him, right?